I think that's my cue to start. There's plenty of seats here, so please come in and sit down. Good morning. My name is Claire Huff. I'm an autism mom, and I serve on the Stanford Autism Center Parent Advisory Board. I want to welcome all of you to this wonderful and amazing conference. When you look at the program, this is no ordinary autism conference, as you can see. There's a lot of thoughtfulness and planning that went into this conference by San Francisco Autism Society, led by Jill. I'm amazed at this conference programs and so many speakers here volunteering their time. I don't know if you know, but these are all volunteers. No one's getting paid here.
Thank you.
And these are a group of parents who are passionate about building autism community. These are parents who are concerned about educating our parents. These are parents who are worried about a lot of our children aging out of school and getting into adulthood. So I think Jill and her team has worked very hard to put this conference together. So if you see people with Autism Society board member name tag, please remember to thank them. This is really about supporting all of us, people like me who has a child who just aged out of school into an adult program, to get more support and, more importantly, to really get sense of belonging to this community. So I want to talk a little bit about Stanford Autism Center. Stanford Autism Center was formed several years ago, and they also asked a group of parents to advise them. As Stanford faculty are very concerned about serving the community all the way from childhood as they age into adulthood. So with this, I'd like to introduce Linda Lasbich, who's a Stanford clinical professor who has worked with our community for over 20 years, and she is a chair of Stanford Autism Center Parent Education Committee. So Linda, please come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So on behalf of the Autism Center, I want to welcome everyone to the conference. I have really been looking forward to this conference. It is so exciting for me, having been in this field for so many decades, to see the level of attention now being brought to serving adults with autism spectrum disorder. I'd like to start off by thanking Claire and all the parents on the Center's advisory board for all the work they've done in helping this conference, as well as the work they've done in the center. I also want to thank Jill and all the members of the planning committee who have developed this conference. It takes a lot of work to do a conference like this, and this is all voluntary work. I've been amazed at the number of emails and all the work that goes behind a conference like this. I also want to thank, as well as Claire did, all the presenters. As she mentioned, it is voluntary, and they have taken special time out of their weekend to be here with us. And thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time. I'd like to just say a few words about the center, just to orient you to the center for those who are not familiar. As Claire said, the center started a few years ago in 2008, around there, and it was initially founded by Dr. Carl Feinstein and now is led by Dr. Antonio Hardin. It is a Wallace Center because what we wanted to do is to bring all of the researchers and the clinicians throughout the Stanford community together for the sole purpose of improving diagnosis and treatment for children with autism. But it didn't stop there, which is so exciting to me because it's a huge collaboration with parents. And it's actually, in major part, the success of the center is due to our parent advisory board that's been very active throughout the years of the center. We have many activities, and I'm not going to go through them all, but we do have a few flyers out on a table, and I just want to mention a couple of things. We have a parent support group that is run by parents from the advisory board. We're also recruiting for a mindfulness class for parents, if you're interested in developing those skills. We are not yet advertising, but we too will have our yearly update in March. And I'm really happy to say that the theme of adults with autism will continue into that conference. To say a few words again on the conference, I'm just so pleased to see now a beginning of a sea change. There's been such a lack of services for this age group, and it's because, again, of everyone and all of you, the participants who are here, and it is the parents who have advocated and who will continue to advocate. In my career, and I started off as a special ed teacher in Cincinnati, Ohio, and came out here, every major change in this field has been driven by parents. So thank you to all of you. Now it is with just great pleasure to introduce Jill Escher, who is the president of the Society of American San Francisco Bay chapter. She is one of the most energetic people I know. The amount that she has done in such a short time, it still impresses me, and I know all of you who know her know exactly what I'm talking about. We wouldn't be sitting here today without her leadership and many other activities that she has done. So let's applaud Jill Escher.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lostbridge. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone at Stanford, for helping us put together this conference. And thank you to our presenters. We have many, many, many presenters. We were really overwhelmed with the quantity and the quality of proposals that we received for this conference. And we have people, I mean, as someone said, this is all volunteers, right? We don't pay anybody. We've never paid anybody. And we have people from South Korea. We have Desiree from Colorado, who was our first-year keynote speaker. Remember Desiree Kamika? And from North Carolina, Lori Ireland. Lori, where are you? Over there, who is on the board of the National Autism Society of America. So we are blessed not just with the locals, but also I saw the registration list. A lot of people came from other states. A lot of this is California specific, so don't blame me if you're kind of start rolling your eyes. And of course, we have to thank our sponsors. You know, these aren't just logos on a screen. I know most of these people and most of these organizations, and these are people who feel very deeply for our community and really want to support us. And without their help, we wouldn't be able to keep ticket prices low. We wouldn't be able to offer scholarships. And we probably even have a down payment on next year's conference with all the support that they've given so generously. And maybe I can convince my board to maybe use some of that for like free massages for Autism Moms Day or something like that. But if they don't vote in favor of that, we're going to have really cheap ticket prices next year. So thank you so much, sponsors. So we at SFASA really base this conference and other conferences on what you told us. And you can learn about us, our mission, vision, values. It's all in the program. You told us in surveys and emails and discussions that you have grave concerns about the future for your autistic and developmentally disabled children. And you said you wanted pragmatic take-home information about whatever tools may be at your disposal to make the futures better for your children. You wanted nuts and bolts and boring but important stuff. So this was really contemplated as a boring but important conference. I don't think it will end up being that, but that's how it started. So I think the autism community is really beginning to feel its own mortality, or at least the parent community. You know, we're getting older, we're gonna die, we're getting older every year, we get creakier, our brains get foggier, and our kids get older, and you know, if they're not adults, they'll soon be adults. Yet we also know it takes like a PhD in this stuff, right, to be able to sort of figure out how to manage our children's futures. I mean, we need to manage public benefits, create special needs trusts, you know, set up conservatorships, deal with regional center IPPs, find housing, medical care. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and these are all very difficult tasks. So this conference is explicitly aimed towards offering practical information for people who bear the ultimate responsibility, for people with sometimes very, very severe and complex disabilities. And this is a big topic, and we can clearly only scratch the surface today. But I hope everyone walks away with at least some useful concepts and connections. So I'm out of curiosity, I did this last year, so I'm just going to do it again. If I had like a worry-o-meter, like, are you like not worried at all about your children's future, kind of sort of a little bit worried, or like pretty well panicked? So I'm going to do the poll. Okay, not worried at all. Okay, kind of sort of a little bit concerned. Oh my God, what are you doing here? No, I'm just kidding, that's great. And then pretty well panicked. Okay, it's similar to last year. Well, join the club. I think most of us feel that way. So for those of you who are new to our conference, we shake it up. First year was about housing. Second year was sort of this crazy whirlwind showcase of local programs. This year is of course about planning. Next year, I'm not sure what we're going to do. It will depend on your feedback. But Yuli, my song is not there. Oh, I can't blame Yuli. I put it on scroll. Okay, hold on. Okay, no background music, people. So sorry. There it is. Okay. Oh, wait. So to raise money for next year, we are going to hold a dance-a-thon, and this will also benefit 7 autism-serving recreation programs in the Bay Area. It will be April 15th. A little bit of music? April 15th at Coverly Pavilion in Palo Alto, and we'll have registration online probably starting the beginning of January. It's going to be super fun, 4 hours of straight dancing. All right, group thing. Now on to serious business. Logistics, locations. The breakout rooms are a little bit hidden. There are 4 breakout rooms on this floor, the second floor. You have to go kind of past this administration area here, kind of past the bathrooms are on the other side. To get to the 3rd floor, there are 4 breakout rooms upstairs. There's a stairwell, again, past the bathrooms, and then there's 2 elevators as well. If you're going to the lecture hall on the 1st floor, you take the stair. It's easiest just to take the stairs that go down and enter on the 1st floor, or you can take the elevators. Bathrooms you saw are over in that way, and there are bathrooms also on the other floors. What else? Because we're live streaming, we're sticking to our timing more or less, just FYI. If you're into social media, I'm not so much. I'm too trolled out by it. But if you're into it, our hashtag is SFASA16. And a survey. If you probably prematurely got a survey, oops, because of a little glitch, we'll send one out shortly after the conference, and we'd love for you to send that back pronto. All right, quickly, just about the agenda. We're going to start off with the, quote-unquote, boring but important stuff, talking about money and talking about IPPs. If you're not in the regional center system, Jan Johnson Tyler has a session on the 1st floor about writing transition plans. At noon, things get a little bit crazy. We're going to grab box lunches, and then you can come back here for the lunch presentation, featuring a really, really cool presentation by Kung Do, who's doing this incredible avatar app. Or we have a couple of discussion groups that are all on this floor, and then Tom Avramis from Good Shepherd Fund is hosting a discussion on the 1st floor in LK 130, which is kind of like this corner downstairs. And then after that, it kind of goes hog wild. There are 9 choices for 3 different sessions. And we've never done this before. We have no idea if some breakouts will really fill up or not. We just don't know. If a breakout is full, go to another one. I mean, that's all I can say. And if you want to float from breakout to breakout, I mean, I can't stop you, but try to do it graciously and quietly. Okay. Next, I'm going to start the conference with something a little bit conceptual, and I'm going to call it Fun with Words. And this is a planning conference, but in my mind, good planning really rests on a foundation of having good concepts and a good vocabulary that's meaningful for us. And autism really seems to be in such a persistent state of kind of what I consider to be conceptual muddiness, made complicated by competing dogmas and inadequate terminology and sanctimonious judgmentalism and various on-trend and off-trend euphemisms. I mean, some of you know what I'm talking about. And some of that, I think, diverts our attention away from what are really the most important issues. So, you know, we have we're trying to serve some of the most deeply disabled people in our communities. And sometimes families face conceptual roadblocks as we search for solutions. So this exercise is not intended to be a lecture, but really intended to open our brains to kind of the floodgates of hopefully clarifying concepts. So I'm going to I have like 20 of them that I could do. I have 6. I'm going to run through them. So autism. Oh, where's my baby? Oh my God, I must have some squirrely thing on here. Okay, she didn't show up. The word autism, as we know, is not one thing, and I don't want anyone in this room to deal with it as if it's one thing. It's a hodgepodge term, and there's really no such thing as autism. For example, Temple Grandin, and if my daughter was on this slide, has nothing in common at all with my daughter. Oh, I pushed next, says Yuli. No, didn't work. Okay, imagine a really cute 10-year-old girl. Nothing in common with my daughter, yet they have the same exact label of autism, and that's absurd, and this is a pervasive problem. My daughter is nonverbal. She functions at a toddler level, although she looks completely normal. She has nothing in common with Temple Grandin. But we talk about autism as if it's a unitary thing. It's absolutely not. We're talking about different causes, genomics, neurobiology, cognition, behaviors, and abilities. So, what's true for you is probably not true for you, and I think we just have to, live with that reality. Next term, institution. So institution is a word that has a deservedly bad rap. But I believe it's one that should come back into style and one that we shouldn't be afraid of. Now, there are 2 kinds of institutions. Look in any dictionary and you will see. There's capital I institutions like Agnew's Developmental Center there on the side. And then there's small I institutions, completely different definition, completely different meanings. Large I institutions were places that were kind of coercive and restrictive, mass-scale housing, where we would relegate people that we deemed to be unfit to live among us in society. But small I institutions are things like this, like Stanford is a small I institution. These are stable, community-based, mission-driven organizations, usually a nonprofit, that serve fundamental public purposes. So in our case, those small I institutions provide essential supports and services for those who cannot care for themselves and on a voluntary basis. But lately in the autism world, it seems like we're confusing big I institutions and small I institutions. They're not the same thing. We make no mistake about it. The future of our children depends on the viability of small I institutions and their strength and how we fund them and how we treat them and how they're treated in the tax code and how they're treated in the developmental code. Without our small I institutions, our kids are sunk. So in my view, institution is a good word and not a bad word so long as we know what we're talking about. Next, intentional. Intentional is also a word that gets a bad rap. And I don't know why. It deserves to be treated as a very important word in our community. The idea of creating intentional housing or programs has come under fire, but it's an outrage that this has happened, in my view. I'm a special needs landlord in one of my day jobs, and I want to assure you that there is absolutely nothing haphazard, nothing kind of off the shelf, nothing casual about providing long-term housing and care for adults with significant intellectual and functional and behavioral challenges. The decision to rent, the terms of the lease, the protections from eviction, the safety measures, sometimes the amenity, the designs, the materials, the source of the monthly rent, which, by the way, in this area is never sufficient. And the various accommodations, which often go far, far, far beyond what the ADA requires. So intentional is a good and indispensable word. It helps and protects and caters to our people. For autistic adults, housing is not a room. It's much, much more than that, and it all requires intention. Next word, epidemic, another hot potato word. Let's be clear about what we are facing. If you don't want to call it an epidemic, that's fine. You can call it a staggering surge. You can call it a dramatic increase. Call it whatever you want. But we are facing a massive influx of adults into our developmental services system that never really existed before. And it's not because of diagnostic shift. If you look at it by birth year, we had about 200 cases per birth year through the early 80s. Now we have 5,000 cases per birth year. If you look at it by caseload, in the early 80s, we had 2,000 to 3,000 cases of DDS-eligible autism. Now we're almost at 100,000 cases. And again, it's maybe a little bit is because of diagnostic shift, but most of it is reality. And if we don't face reality, we can't change the future for our children. Self-advocate. I have absolutely nothing against this word. It's a great word, and it's great a term to describe some people, but it's just insanity to think that it applies to all or even most people with autism. Now let's see if, I don't know if this is gonna work.
Can you tell me where do you live?
This is 20 seconds of my son.
Can you tell me where do you live? Johnny, can you tell me when is your birthday?
Good job, honey.
All right, very good.
Thanks,
very
sweetie.
Good. All right, so he's nonverbal, non-responsive.
So that was the conservatorship. You know, when you do a conservatorship, they have an court investigator come over and kind of make sure that everything is what you say it is. So that's who that nice lady was. You know, what's my point? You know, my son Johnny has many excellent qualities. I love him to death. He's my best friend. But let's be honest, people, he's not a self-advocate. And I have so many people telling me, well, your kid's a self-advocate. I'm like, on what planet? So I think it denigrates their reality, and it also denigrates those who actually bear the physical, intellectual, financial, and legal responsibility to care for people like this. So self-advocate is a good term, but it should be used judiciously and not indiscriminately. All right, oops. Last word, person-centered. I have nothing against person-centered. I love, 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 love person-centered planning. But speaking for myself, and maybe not for you, it's actually not my first priority when it comes to long-term planning for my kids. My priority is actually to find people who love my children and who love their work and are rewarded in their work. Because I feel that if I have people who are caring and loving and completely bought into what they're doing for my kids after I'm dead or incapacitated, that my children will have a better chance at a happy, fulfilling, and safe life. And you know, Jim Ball, who's the former board chair of the Autism Society of America, said something I felt was very important. He called autism a whole family condition. And I think that view applies not just to blood relatives, but also to all their caretakers. So when we talk about person-centered planning, I think it's important to not forget that we are also part of this whole family condition. Caregivers are too often invisible and absent from the dialogue about planning for adults with autism, and that's insane. I mean, sometimes they're actually treated like dirt. So the list could go on. I can play word games like all day, but I won't do that because we have much more important things to do. But the point is, I want to free up this conference, free up our community from euphemism and harmful dogma. We should not apologize for the urgency of our issues, and we also should do what's best for ourselves and our children. So with that, I am going to turn it over for a few announcements. I see one announcement right ahead of me. I'll give you the floor, and then I'm going to return with just another announcement. Anna Wang from Friends of Children with Special Needs. She's one of my favorite autism moms ever.
Thank you, Jill. And good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Wang. I am a parent of a 27-year-old son with autism, and I am also one of the founder of a Small I institution that supports individuals with autism and their families. I'm going with all the things that Jill just said. I want to bring an announcement to you about a stage that showcases our kids' abilities and talents. A lot of times we worry about kids because we don't know who's going to take care of them and how their life is going to be. But we forgot that actually they have power and they have gifts given by God. And we want to showcase their talent at FCSN. A lot of times people think that they're nonverbal and they cannot socialize well and just write them off. And at FCSN, we want to bring to the front that they have different abilities and talent. And whoever enter the FCS, the showcase of talents, is going to be a winner no matter what. We are sponsored by the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, and they're going to have parting gifts from the Warriors. And then, you know, we showcase about 10 people at our final talent show on March the 18th next year. And the 3 top winners gonna have $500 and a promotion video made for them. And so we have seen so many people that actually are nonverbal and have showcased their talents. And this is a great chance. So I have flyers in the back. So if you want to pick up one and have your special needs loved one come and audition, we really welcome that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Anna's amazing. Every time I see her, she's like, Jill, we're building something new. We're creating a new program. You know, we were serving 500 families. Now we're serving 900 families. You know, she just keeps going and go. She's the most unstoppable, most amazing autism mom in the world. And also the Special Needs it's not called that. Special Needs Talent Showcase is really fabulous. It's amazing how gifted a lot of these kids are. So thank you for everything you do. I have a really quick announcement from PHP. They wanted to let everybody know they have an incredible database, like just 2,000 listings, resource listings on their website. And they've added kind of a Yelp function to it. So you can not only search for things, you can make comments about a provider or a service or an organization, a small I institution. You can now do that. And I actually looked and I found out we were listed on PHP's database, so say nice things about us, I guess.